Sato ma sadgamaya, tamaso ma jyotir gamaya, mrityo amritam gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May the lead us from the unreal to the real, lead us from darkness to light, lead us from death to immortality. These are very ancient words because Hinduism is the most ancient of all religions. And if you ask people what are the top 3 religions or main religions in the world, or if you ask in Ireland anyway, they'll say Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. But I have to say, you're out of touch because it's Christianity, Islam, and Hinduism. Hinduism has just over 1 billion adherents. So, and I know what you're all thinking, by the way, what's Jerry Adams doing here? But no, I'm not Jerry Adams, and I'm not a member of the Orange Order, so set your mind at rest. I was struck by a number of things that various speakers said, even from the morning. For example, Archbishop Jackson had told us that we're never too young to challenge caricature. And I think we saw an example of a caricature of an artifact or religious symbol on a t-shirt where the Om was there. And this Om is extremely sacred, and yet you'll find it everywhere. You'll find it on t-shirts, you'll find it on walls, you'll find it on underwear, and all kinds of things. And there are many, many artifacts from Hinduism which are put into caricature form on the basis that we don't know what it is, but it seems a little funny. First of all, I was pointing out earlier to somebody here, Dr. Travis, I think it was, that Hinduism is not a polytheistic religion. And this is one of the most fundamental errors we have to correct, misconceptions. Because Hinduism has 5 principles. I'll give you this little background before I talk about artifacts. Firstly, we believe in the authority of the Vedas. Veda comes from the Sanskrit. Sanskrit, as you may know, is the most ancient mother of all Indo-European languages, including English, including Irish. And actually you'll find Irish words directly traceable in the Irish language. Sanskrit is there. For example, Arya, distorted as a kind of invasion thing or a superlative race, is an adjective in Sanskrit. It means a noble person. Era, or I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing correctly, but A-I-R-E means noble in Irish. We have Neb in Sanskrit means good. Niv means holy, and even the Christian name Niv means a saint, as far as I understand. So these are just some examples of the deep connections, linguistic connections, which are there as part of an Indo-European culture, probably also arriving, as it were, in Celtic traditions. We know very little about Celtic traditions. We know some of the theology, we know some of the deities and so on, and we know some of the structures. And a great, great similarity is there between the ancient Indian structures and the ancient Celtic structures. Just coming on then to some of the artifacts and how we can make a caricature of them. And when we came to Om this morning on a t-shirt, yes, Om is seen to be the one universal sound that everybody will encounter in a very subtle form of the first movement of the universe. In the ancient Vedas, this was called Vak, meaning word, of course. And when we say Vedas, of course, the root, Sanskrit root, is vid, to know or to see. When we talk about vidya, we're using the same root, basic root. So Vedas are not scriptures in the classical sense. They are discoveries. They're discoveries of fundamental truths which we all have underlying everything. And that has some implications for interfaith. Because what it means is, if there is one truth underlying everything, something like an ocean, then all the waves, no matter how hard they fight or disagree with each other, will sooner or later have to understand we are the one ocean. I am a wave. I want to fight with other waves. This is called ignorance. The fundamental truth and knowledge is we are one fundamental thing, and this was discovered thousands of years ago and put out in the Vedas. The one portion of the Vedas would tell us something incredibly agnostic about how things came to be. It says, when there was aught nor naught, when darkness covered darkness, what was there? Only he knows, or maybe he doesn't. And that loophole is given for everybody. The fact of the matter is that all religions are looking for some supreme principle that has no perishable parts in space and that has no evolution in time. And how the human mind can grasp such a thing? Art is required, culture is required, artifacts are required that have a deep meaning. Let's take, for example, on one of the slides that I saw today, this afternoon, it is called Nataraja. And unfortunately, in the Chester Beatty Library, there are not many artifacts that were collected by Chester Beatty on Hinduism. But that's okay. Nataraja is known to everybody as a dancing entity, a dancing Shiva. Shiva means that one who is auspicious. Now, a bronze statue sits outside CERN, who are the promoters and of the largest laboratory in the world, physics laboratory, the Large Hadron Collider in Switzerland. And they happily decided that this was an artifact that would represent the whole bubbling atomic fiery nature of the universe itself at the subatomic level. Things appearing, things disappearing, the whole cosmos in flux. And if you think, therefore, that the universe is something like a dance, then you'd naturally consider that supreme as a dancer. If you think this world is a play, you consider that supreme as a player. If you consider this entity or this world as a protected field, then you'll think of that supreme as a protector. If you think this is a creation, then you'll think of that entity as a creator. All of these are correct. It just depends how are you looking at it. Sometimes I give a philosophical question, does a rainbow exist or not? Well, there's no definite answer. If you're standing at a certain angle and the rain is falling and the light is refracted nicely, yes, it exists. But if you go above the clouds, not only is there no rainbow, but there's no weather. You must have noticed. So these artifacts that are used in Hinduism arose through a process of meditation. They didn't arise randomly. And they're also associated with the mythology. The mistake is to start with the mythology. No, the mythology, as we discussed earlier, is to tell children. And once children are old enough, let's say about 9, there's a great famous text in our Bhagavad Gita, one of our 3 sacred scriptures. And it says, Udaret atmana atmanam matamanam avasadayat. Raise yourself up by yourself, or lower yourself by yourself. You're your own best friend, or your own worst enemy. You think the other person is your enemy? No, it's you. And so this great series of teachings that everybody in the world can relate to is a great foundation for unity. More blood has been shed prior to the last 2 world wars through God and religion than any other cause in the world, because people did not see the fundamental sameness and unity that Hinduism has always had. I started by saying there are 5 things in Hinduism. The authority of the Vedas revealed, just like gravity has been there forever. Secondly, we believe in one supreme principle. And that supreme principle in you and me and everybody is either connected or one and the same with it. Thirdly, we believe that the universe is eternal and it runs on causation, determinism, cause and effect, sowing and reaping. This we call karma. And then, how do you realize the supreme principle? Hinduism says only one way, and that is direct perception. No other means. But there are 4 approaches commensurate with the psyche. First approach will be, not necessarily in this order, psychic control or meditation, selfless service or work, love of God, or philosophical knowledge and understanding, one or more or all of these, and be free. And since we are not one-sided people, we'll have to have some life balance in employing all of them. Just a word about the word Hinduism. Hinduism, this word, I think, was probably originated in 1838 by the British in India, because in no text in so-called Hinduism will you find the word. But there's a Sindh province in northwestern part of the Indian subcontinent. And when the Persians came to conquer, they couldn't say this word, they had to say Hindu. Anybody south of the Sindhu River is a Hindu. It's a geographic term. It's much more accurate to say the Vedic religion or Vedanta, since we adhere to the authority of the Vedas. Now, the most popular way, the easiest way for most people in this day and age of these 4 approaches would be love of God. It's the sweetest. And so this love of God will have one extremely important principle. Technically, it's called Ishtadevata. It means a chosen ideal. It means since this supreme principle has no moving parts and has no evolution in time, then we have to conceive of some kind of form or some kind of quality. Every religion has it. Even in Judaism and Islam, though they may say, we don't believe in anything with form, even so, when you say Allah, when you say Yahweh, whatever you say, some corresponding image will come. It may be like the blue sky, it might be like the endless black, I don't know. It might be like an ocean, but some image will come. We're all image makers. And this is a point of contention, a great, great misunderstanding that has resulted in so much bloodshed. Earlier on, I asked, so if you are a member of the Abrahamic religions, please tell me, what's your understanding of Dharma? Well, you see, one thing that people are too polite to mention is this commandment about graven images. But you see, I think the Catholics have them. And the idea is not about the image. The idea is about what it represents. It's the artifact that represents something sacred. Not only is an artifact, but it is infused. How is it infused? Because this entity is understood to be omnipresent everywhere, even in artifacts, if you have a mind to put it there. This principle of Ishtadevata is the principle of the harmony of religions. And you can choose whatever form, whatever image you like. This makes Hinduism so-called pluralistic, not polytheistic. That leads us to the 5th principle. All religions are true. All paths are true. This may be a bridge too far for some, and yet that's what we hold. For this reason, we have a great, great contribution to universal harmony. This principle of Vedanta, or the essence of the Vedas, popularly called Hinduism. Our daily life creates our symbol of God. No two ever cover quite the same conception. It is so with that symbolism which we know as language. The simple daily needs of mankind seem, the world over, to be one. We look therefore for words that correspond in every land. Yet we know how the tongue of each people expresses some one group or ideas with a special clearness and ignores others altogether. This is the opening of a chapter written by a very extensive educator and author, whose picture you find here. We call her Sister Nivedita. Nivedita, Sanskrit, means the dedicated one. I'll try very briefly to summarize her life. She was called by Swami Vivekananda. Swami Vivekananda attended the Parliament of Religions in 1883. In Chicago, they had a big Columbian exposition, and there was a Parliament of Religions. For the first time, people of different religions gathered together. He was lionized as the most outstanding speaker, and if it wasn't for him, you would know nothing about yoga and Oriental ideas, etc. So powerful was he was visiting London. He came across somebody. He was immediately moved that she was an educator. She had been part and parcel of an exclusive club, Sesame Club in London, with Lady Margaret Isabel. People like George Bernard Shaw were members, people like Thomas Huxley, all the intellectual shakers and movers. And she was a teacher. By the age of 25, she had her own girls' school in Wimbledon, and she was following state-of-the-art educational principles of Froebel. And Froebel, I think, was a student also you'll tell me, I'm sure, you're all educators. State-of-the-art. And so she applied these principles. This Swami Vivekananda saw her, said, I'm looking for somebody of immense love, sincerity, sincere to the core, well-educated. And he goes on with a whole list of qualities. But above all, your Celtic blood. She went to India. She started a girls' school. She entered into plague relief, famine relief. And the connection with Ireland is this, that the British intransigence in India and that in Ireland was exactly the same. Millions perished. This is a great connection between Ireland and India. She worked tirelessly for the welfare of India, seeing that the freedom of India, political, would also release her philosophical ideas and would impact the world in the same way that I've mentioned today. Because we have these ancient texts that are so profound, most ancient philosophies in the world, and most profound, that they are worthy of study. Our Vedanta Society is dedicated to that, to disseminating this universal Vedanta philosophy contained in these ancient Upanishads or Vedantic texts. So she worked hard. She died in Darjeeling at the age of 43, barely 44, giving her all to India. Rabindranath Tagore, the great poet, said she gave her all to India and called her Lokamata, that is, mother of the world. He really meant mother of India. So here's the thing. She was born in Ireland. She's an Irish lady. And this is part of your culture. And every school, I have to say, needs to tell all your students about this because it's your heritage. This great lady who was instrumental in the Indian national freedom and the upliftment of the poor and the uneducated, where it wasn't fashionable to do so. Her whole health she gave. Secondly, the other thing, of course, is that she was a prolific writer, a prolific educator. One of the principles of the education is what she got from her master, Swami Vivekananda. Education is not stuffing a head with information. Education is tapping into that potential that is already in you. It's already in the students. That knowledge is already there. It just requires the occasion. It just requires the stimulus. And it's something I think we can all bear in mind. Sister Nivedita has a bridge named after her, a road named after her, many, many schools named after her that she started. And she is honored and understood as a great, great national heroine in India. But not much about her is known in her own homeland. There's a plaque in her hometown, Dungannon, which we regard as a pilgrimage place. It was actually instituted by this senator now, who's sadly passed away. This is our Jean McGuinness, who champions the cause of Sister Nivedita up in Dungannon. And this is the plaque that was founded by the Ulster Historical Circle in Northern Ireland. A remarkable woman, and I commend her to you as a great example to you and to all your students of the character and personality of a true heroine and educator. Thank you.